Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Limitless TCG podcast, episode 33. I am your host, Connor Hayward, and joining me, as always, my wonderful co-host, Robin Schultz. How you doing?
Hey, I was a bit sick last week, so why we didn't record, but I'm doing fine now. It's all good.
I mean, really, we were just sick of the pre-rotation format, so we were just waiting a week.
Actually, I would have liked to play some more pre-rotation.
Yeah, it's a weird format, but we'll get into that. We'll have a chat about some pre-rotation tournaments that happened, namely the POG Championships. We'll have a chat about a post-rotation tournament that we had the finals of this weekend. We'll have a chat about what our thoughts about the current format, and maybe a few other topics that we stumbled across along the way. But before we get into that, I want to take a moment to thank everyone for their support over on patreon.com/limitlesstcg, and also to our sponsor, Cardmarket. In the previous episode, like 2 weeks ago, there was a giveaway that was announced for you guys to enter to win some Cardmarket credit. I have drawn the winners, and I will be in contact with them on Twitter to give them their prizing. So, with that, let's start in the earliest sequence. We'll start with POG, right? Well, let's go all the way back to POG, which is like a little while ago now. The Worlds replacement that we basically had. We want to have Worlds, but we can't have Worlds, so we'll get 1,000 people to play in a tournament over the course of a weekend event. Crowd-funded prizing. Ran it all through Discord, which was kind of cool to see. It was kind of a neat idea. I think good tournament. It was won by Old Faithful Pikarom, and nearly by Xander with his Old Faithful of who knows what these 60 cards are supposed to do, but he does.
I loved Xander's deck. It's, I always like looking at his list and like counting how many one-offs he can fit.
It was 30-something this time, right? Like, it was insane.
And this was the biggest deck list I've ever seen. Like, the most amount of, I think it was 40 individual cards, which is a lot for a Pokemon deck.
Yeah, and it was basically square. Like, all the graphics I've seen of the list, normally because of the card ratio of like width to height, they have like a vaguely rectangular shape. Xander's is square because of how many rows it takes up. It's a lot, but great deck. Actually, a lot. I played it a lot before the rotation. I played it on ladder a lot. It's actually a really fun deck to play as well.
Unfortunately, like in all his top cuts at regionals, he once again lost to the time limit. But yeah, really great run.
Yeah, I mean, lost to the time limit and to Isaiah, who played very well. He played super well, but also brought a deck that I think a lot of people would have overlooked almost. As good as Pikarom has been, everyone was like, "Oh, but Vikavolt the play," or these new decks. Nope, it was just a straight up Pikarom with a Vikavolt in it, and it was pretty good. Turns out.
That was a pretty cool Pikarom list. It actually played 2 Vikavolt, and was like I actually played against the same deck list in the tournament as well. Not against Isaiah, but I ended up losing against Pikarom, where game 3 I just got like Vikavolt locked early. I didn't draw my VMAX, and just lost against a single Vikavolt basically. So like Vikavolt can put in a lot of work for sure.
Well, I think that was what was really interesting about it, is Pikarom can normally be super aggressive and put you under a lot of pressure, but in matchups where it can't pull that off for whatever reason, being able to slow you down and chip damage you, especially against the VMAX decks, is really cool because, he mentioned with the 2 Vikavolt, you could kind of item lock against a VMAX for a couple of turns, then pull off the GX attack to, take 6 prize cards in an efficient way by, putting the snipe onto the damaged VMAX. It was kind of cool. Really, really fun list.
And Pikarom, of course, just ever since Team Up been like one of the best decks, and this set just didn't change that.
Nope.
People were a bit scared of Eternatus maybe, but it turned out Pikarom is just fine, like it has always been. And Well, now it lost a lot to rotation, but I wouldn't be very surprised if Pikarom just like showed up again at some point. It's just
it'll find a way. It's like that deck that's done that the most, as far as I'm concerned. If like you think on paper, okay, right, Pikarom has to be bad now. Surely there's no way. No way, it's winning tournaments again. Like it just consistently just keeps popping back up, going hi, and yeah, it's probably the most resilient deck I can think of in a long time in terms of just not going away.
Like someone could have just got a Pikarom deck at the beginning and then played it all the time, and they would have always had a tier 1 deck.
Yeah,
without exception.
Well, okay, so I would argue maybe occasionally it was technically tier 2, but it was still really good in tier 2. Like it was. I
think there was like one format when Cosmic Eclipse came out where it was like a little worse than tier 1, maybe. But then towards the end of the format, it showed up again. Like at the beginning, it kind of disappeared because of I think low path mainly. But then, like people just switched over to tag call versions and then like won games again. So
yeah,
it was good after all. Like yeah, that was like another case of like Pikarom being written off too early.
Yep, and it's a deck that I think is going to have legs going forward anyway, just because of the energy acceleration, the damage output's not all there, but if you're in it where it feels like we've gone into more of a 2-hit knockout format for a lot of decks, because VMAXs just have so much HP that you end up having to 2-hit them, and if you're going to 2-hit them, you might as well attach 3 energy to the benched Pokemon at the same time. You know, like you might get 1-hit KO back sometimes, but that's a risk you have to take, I think. But yeah, really cool event. A lot of prizing. It was like, I think it went as 10% of a regional. So it was like $500 top prize. But also there were lots of side events with prizing as well. So it was kind of more of a regional, it wasn't just the main event for the weekend. It used the world's qualification system. Well, kind of anyone could play day 1, but the day 2 invites were based on those who would have had day 2 invites for Worlds. I think Jesper stole Tord's space because Tord was busy. He stole Henry's space, I believe. Henry Brand's space. So there we have it.
Yeah, also had a really cool stream. I was like, I spent all weekend there just watching the stream, basically. I didn't end up playing much, but it was still fun.
I did have you down as one of the players that we would feature on stream, and then by the time I checked in on your record, I was like, oh dear, okay, never mind.
I was really confident in my deck, but I hit 2 rough matchups the first 2 rounds, and then I could have won actually, but then I priced my Evil Tile GX like game 3 against the Eternatus, and then I lost because of that. And then I ended up losing against the Vika Volt as well, and then it just dropped eventually.
Yeah.
But I still liked the deck. Was a bit unfortunate, but well, what can you do?
Yeah, the stream was a lot of fun to work on as well. Like very different to running like the IRL Limitless streams that me and David and Lydia tend to be the ones making that kind of tick over. It was kind of just me on the operations, which meant I think I slept for something like 10 hours in 38 or something. Like at one point, the amount of sleep I had was ridiculously small, like slim. But then the casting crew that we got to work with that weekend were amazing. I genuinely believe Mitch should be a TPCI caster. They're missing a trick if they don't hire that guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, it's his first time casting. You're like, wait, what? That's insane. So it was a lot of fun, and also something just something cool to do. It was a nice stream to work on. But yeah, there's been other events since as well now. So Pog was a big celebration for the community. The other event that we had from TPCI that concluded the week after was the Players' Cup, played post-rotation with an unexpected winning deck. I'm going to be honest. It was very smart. The call was insane, but
yeah, there was they just destroyed that tournament. It was such a crazy call.
Yeah, but I guess it's
They definitely like big brained everyone in that tournament.
well, I guess it kind of works, right? If you're going into a 16-person tournament, you kind of have a rough inkling of what everyone's going to play. Like, you can probably pick out a lot of what people are going to play, even going into a new set, like a post rotation. You could probably still work it out. And then there was the game. I remember watching the day one stream of it with the Bronzong versus the Center Scorch, and it was just the Bronzong won the game, and Center Scorch was just sat there going, "Oh dear, okay." And Carl Saberhouse on commentary was basically dying of laughter because Puka was trying to cast, try and make out that it was dramatic and interesting, and Carl Sukovic and Saberhouse was just gone. It was gone. It was a lot of fun.
As Bronzong thing was funny, just like come on, Bronzong evolve. Oh, game over. But yeah, it was really smart call because there wasn't that much reason to play non-fire attackers and Center Scorch decks for that tournament. Like now it probably won't work anymore, at least for a while. But yeah, really smart call for the Players' Cup finals.
Yeah, and then the Lucario Melmetal was an insane call as well because if you're going to play Zacian, there are lots of the other Zacian build. It's probably the less popular Zacian build, but it works great against the Eternatus because of the single energy attachments, and it works really nicely against ADP as well if you get the GX tech off. So,
I think the ADP matchup was a bit sketchy because the list didn't have any tool scrapper, and then if ADP just has their own goggles, big charm, whatever, then suddenly the Macari deck doesn't want to KO the opposing Zacians anymore, and then you just like trade normal, like you just trade 2-hit KOs.
Yeah.
But they take 3 prizes and you only take 2 prizes. So yeah, that was like the matchup was a bit sketchy, but it ended up working out. Like in the interview, they said that they didn't expect the ADP list to play like defensive tools. But I think like Big Chop and ADP in manipulation was like a normal inclusion, just to like maybe live against Eternatus and other stuff. But yeah, I think it was still a fine call because like if ADP didn't have those defensive tools, the matchup would be favorable, I think, and all the other decks in the tournament were just smashed by the Lucario Melmetal build. So yeah, it was a really cool deck. But now with how the meta developed, I think the list itself will have to change a lot because like first, of course, the Bronzong was like doesn't really work anymore. It was more like a one-time thing. And also Mewtwo got really popular by now, and Mewtwo should beat that deck, I'm pretty sure. They can just set up a Rishizard and then kind of run through that. And you have a lot of non-fire attackers anyway, so Bronzong doesn't do anything. So I think the Mewtwo deck probably should beat the Lucario Melmetal pretty easily. But yeah, maybe like if you put in some weakness guard or something, could be fine. And I mean, the deck is really good, so I would expect it to be around. Just it won't ever be as dominant as in that tournament anymore, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where a lot of those techs were great surprise techs that no one's gonna, or it's unlikely people have necessarily included things to beat them immediately.
Yeah, also ADP can put in Tool Scrapper and then they can run accusations, which for the Players' Cup finals there was no real reason to put Tool Scrapper in ADP, but now there is, and it's another problem for the deck. So yeah, it was a great call, but the deck, I don't think it will work like that in the current meta game anymore.
No, and the other surprise deck for the, because I certainly wasn't expecting it when we watched game one of day one, was Toadspring of Inteleon VMAX and the Snoms. When game one, he flipped over a Snom. I hadn't watched any of the build-up. I don't know if they mentioned what he was playing before then. He flipped over a Snom. I was amazed. It really wasn't what I was expecting at all. But I've played against the list a couple of times now on ladder. It's really annoying because they keep, it's a great call for, again, a lot of the decks that are good from this new set are single attachment per turn, unless they're playing the Turbo Patch builds, which means that single energy going back to hand every turn could win you a game because they might genuinely never be able to attack, which is kind of insane. And the ability to snipe stuff off the bench is really cool. There was the 6 prize turn, which was insane. But there's a lot of potential with that deck, to the point where Inteleon VMAXs I think went from like basically free on PTTGO to like suddenly extremely expensive. So
yeah, like the point of the deck is basically to be a Dragapult, but without darkness weakness. And if everything goes well for the deck, it actually wins games a turn faster than Eternatus does because of like just how the damage and bench snipe works in addition to Zigzagoon. So yeah, in theory, it's a turn faster than Eternatus. And also it has type advantage against Centiskorch. So that matchup is also like that matchup is pretty free overall. Like Todd ended up losing one game against Centiskorch, but it's you beat Centiskorch pretty solidly.
And it includes
that was.
There's a Lapras in there, so it's got to be the best deck, right? That's how it works.
It was basically like an anti-other VMAX deck. The ADP matchup is kind of like hard, but it's doable. It's like maybe slightly unfavorable. And yeah, it's against the Lucario Melmetal deck, it ended up being pretty bad. Like, as Todd didn't expect to play against that. But I think the deck is okay overall, not too amazing. I think if Eternatus plays the version with the Screw Up Nets and Vitality Band, it can actually run a KO in Inteleon, and then it can get really sketchy for Inteleon. So, like, I don't know, I'm not the biggest fan of the deck, but it's one of the better decks in the format.
Do you know how long Todd was playing it for? Because we all know, like, the normal Worlds event includes a Limitless Bootcamp plus Todd, and also whoever else wants to, whoever else messages and asks, I guess, to an extent. Like, where you guys all sit and test for weeks to work out the play. Do you have any idea how long Todd was working on the Inteleon list?
I think a lot of it was just theory, and actually he has played it, like with himself and with Norwegians, I think. And I played against him like for one whole day of ADP versus Inteleon and Eternatus versus Inteleon. I think like the day or 2 days before the tournament, I was doing okay overall, but like the deck didn't feel like amazing when I played against it. It was just like fine overall.
Sure. But no, really cool event. It was interesting to see that some of the TPCI casters, namely Puka, basically put out a tweet saying, "Look, we know it wasn't perfect for the Players' Cup. Like, we know that there are things that we can improve for next time." But that in and of itself was an interesting tweet, because first of all, it means that they want to make improvements. But 2, it implies that there's a next time.
Yeah, we saw the last PCGO update, right? I think that basically confirmed that there's going to be more Players' Cups, and that it will be done with these special tickets, where I would assume that everyone gets like a certain amount of those special tickets, and then only tournaments played with 4 special tickets count towards the ranking. I can't really see it being anything else than that. No,
it'll be tournament keys instead of like regular tickets, which will make a big difference. because it basically means that I can't buy my way into the top of Europe by just playing a lot of games because I have enough tickets. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it pans out, and also when they plan on doing the next event, right? Like, we haven't got any major events on the horizon right now, so is that their plan? Are they going to try and put one soon-ish? Now we've just finished one. I don't know, but it'll be intriguing. But right now, I don't know if I'd play because the format that we're in, I'm not a huge fan of at the minute. There's not many decks I'm particularly enjoying playing. It feels that, I mean, this is always the case post-rotation, right? Decks get worse.
Yeah, I think it's just like post-rotation, there's not that many viable decks. There's still a decent amount. I don't think it's... I see a lot of complaints in the past few days, but I don't know. I think it's fine. I think I prefer pre-rotation because it had a lot of cool cards that rotated, like Jirachi Prism Star. I really liked that. Escape Bot for Jirachi Engines was just great. And I also like lightning decks, so Electropower from the Mountain Zero Aura is like a bit sad. And I also really like Dragapult, and when Treasure and Malama rotated, so Dragapult is now, and also Escape Bot was really huge for Dragapult, so Dragapult is kind of bad now without all his cards. So just most decks I liked kind of just rotated. That's a bit sad, but that's what happens every year. It's just you get used to it, and now just gotta find some other decks. Enjoy.
Yeah, it's from my perspective, it's a slightly weird one because it normally feels like, as far as I'm concerned, during a rotation that a lot of cards rotate, so some decks get worse. But as a result of this, some new deck pops up and dominates for a little bit, or shakes things up, right? So you go, because by losing a couple of the tier 1 contenders that might have been keeping a different deck out, this other deck can kind of take their space. But I don't know. I don't feel that that's happened. I guess maybe you could argue Inteleon. I guess, but that feels
Inteleon's like the biggest new deck, I guess.
Yeah, like we haven't picked up anything else to replace the stuff we've made. Like, normally, like we do have something pop up out of nowhere, which is kind of cool. But I can live with it. I'm okay with that. It's just,
like, technically, Eternatus and Centiskorch are new. If you compare to last, because like for POC format, last season we didn't have that thing at all. It was just straight into post rotation.
Mm-hmm.
So like the set did bring like a bunch of new decks, but I would agree that the decks right now are not like the most. Especially, not really a big fan of playing with or against Eternatus, but it's just like Eternatus is kind of like a crazy power level. I don't really like that.
I mean,
that much. But it's just like other than a lot of other, like than most other VMAX. But it's just what happens. Like the card designers just push certain cards a lot. Same as with Zacian. Zacian is just strictly better.
Have I lost Robin? I think we had... Yeah, you are back. We've lost your video for a second, but I'll just restart the thing. It's okay. We'll just keep the audio rolling. I can cut this bit out. I'll just add a marker. Add marker. Thank you. I'm going to need that for later. Yeah, give me 1 second. I've got to restart your camera, which also means your audio is going to restart for the stream. Okay, apparently it's not restarting your camera, but I can still hear you, and as long as everyone can still hear Robin, we'll just continue with you not being able to see the Robin. So if everyone in chat can confirm, okay. Apparently, okay. So maybe you're on a new link. Let me just see if something changed. No, wait 1 second. Yeah, if you hang up and then rejoin, and we'll see if that works. Hooray, German internet. But also, it's chucking it down outside, so it could well be partly my end. Right, grab your link. I can see you. Robin Cam. He's back.
For me, it looks so good.
Okay, he's back again. Okay, so I'll add a second marker and continue with the Continue with the vague train of thought. I'll try and cut it together somehow so no one notices in the final version.
Yeah, we're talking about the format right now, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think there's still some interesting decks. Or like, I honestly I like Station ADP in this current format.
Mm-hmm.
I know people don't really like it. It's kind of boring by now. It's an old deck and everything, but there's a lot of ways you can build it. This format, like the tech core version, for example, is getting more relevant again because you don't really want to put down all the support Pokemon, especially mirrors, and there's like some other reasons as well. You can like do different approaches against like Eternatus. You can either go like super turbo and go for the KO2 Crowbats, or you can just like play double Zamazenta and Metal Goggles and then just try to wall out Eternatus like we've seen in the Players' Cup. And yeah, we've also seen like some Jirachi lists, some with Sword Jirachi, and like some play turbo patches, some don't, and like there's a lot of different like Station ADP lists right now, and there's not a clear best one yet. So that's actually a deck that I enjoy currently. And then there's also Blacephalon, which I kind of like right now. Like Blacephalon is just the best single prizer we have in the format. And it's been for a while. It's just it can one cure everything, and it doesn't like it can zap in one turn. It's just really good one price Pokemon. The only thing that can really keep up with the meta game. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it got worse with Fiery Flint, but like I've been saying in here for a while, you just put in Giant Half instead, and maybe cut the energy retrievals for more energy, and you're fine. It's not the biggest deal ever, and yeah, but that can be fun to play, in my opinion.
I mean, it feels weird to say it, but I am really enjoying playing Blands right now because it's edge of your seat every turn, because it's consistent enough that you can expect to get what you need every turn, but it's not guaranteed, and it's not as if you're looking for one card. You'd be like, okay, I need to hit a welder and 6 energy in some way, shape, or form, and it's just kind of exciting. Going, am I going to get there? I don't know. Oh, I did. Cool, take the KO. It's great, and it's quite fun from that side. And it's also it feels very different to play to like a lot of the other decks. Like, as much as I don't hate Eternatus, but I also don't particularly love it right now because it's just a lot of good cards in a deck. There doesn't feel like there was a lot of thought beyond, we'll just put all the good cards in a deck. And I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, that's how it works, I guess. And same with Center Squelch. They kind of just attach, evolve, attach, smack, 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 and that's the bulk of their game plan. And I just find that a little bit boring to be honest.
With Center Scorch, at least you have to like plan out your energies. Like, do you just go all in with first Center Scorch? Do you maybe like give up the first one, then try to charge the second one? And also Center Scorch, you can play it like green Center Scorch, where you make the opponent go through 2 Center Scorch, or you can go the Crobat, Dedenne, Eldegoss version, where you just hit your welders pretty consistently, but when you can just lose off KOing your support Pokemon and just ignoring your Center Scorch. So there's like that trade-off. Whereas in Eternatus, you don't really have a choice on how you build the deck. You just kind of attach to Eternatus and then attack for a lot of damage. You can put it off support Pokemon. You can try to build your deck to 1 KO over VMAXs, or you can just go like a bit more like, I guess, slower and just put in some different tags. But yeah, I don't know. Like overall, I think Eternatus is not very interesting compared to like even something like Center Scorch, or I don't know. With Placifern, you also don't have that much to like the lists don't really differ much, but gameplay wise, it's like more interesting than other decks.
Which I find really frustrating, like with Eternatus, because the parallel people draw, right, the obvious one with Mega Ray, but there were lots of different types of Mega Ray lists. Like there were some that, you know, okay, they all played 4 Shaman, that was kind of a given, but beyond that, the other Pokemon you put on the bench could be fairly flexible. So there were lists that would play like 4 of the Unknown to help play around N, which I thought was a super cool, you know, like they were kind of cool. And then there were lots of other attackers that you might want to play, like one of Zebstrika for the mirror that occasionally came up, or, you know, lots of other little bits and pieces. And that was because they didn't have that type lock. Being limited to dark types really restricts it, right? Versus like there was a metal version. I'm trying to think of all the versions of Mega, because I think I played a lot of them. There was a metal version with Magina EX, I want to say.
Like at the beginning, Rayquaza was mostly played with Bronzong, actually. It was more like a metal box with Mega Ray in there. But yeah, afterwards, it didn't really matter also that much. You just put in, like, you had, you put in like one type of basic energy for your Mega Turbos, and then depending on your type, you could put in some random text like a Magina if you played metal energies, but it wasn't really that impactful. It was still just Mega Ray.
No, but it gave you some choice over, like, if you thought which version you think was going to be best for the tournament you were at that weekend. There was some value to it. Whereas now it goes, right, 4 Crobat, 4 Zigzagoon, 4 line of Eternatus. Okay, well, I need 4 more Pokemon in here somewhere, basically.
And you still have to make some choices with your Eternatus list. Right now, you should probably include something to deal with Zamazenta. Like Sableye V is a good option, I think. And you also need something to like put damage on Zamazenta if they have a Metal Goggles. Like some Hoopers or Spiritomb. I think Spiritomb is pretty good. Also helps against Decidueye. So yeah, I would probably just play like the Zigzagoons. Probably also Scoop Up Nets, just to hit those 1 KOs on Inteleon or something, or Center Scorch. Although Center Scorch, if they play Heat Energy or Big Jump, it's pretty hard to 1 KO them. So I don't know if it's worth it. But I've actually, like at the beginning, I wasn't a big fan of the Scoop Up Nets, but they do like, they're not amazing, but they do like multiple things. They help with damage. They're like kind of a switch card. You can just play them down usually to draw cards with Crobat. Like, they're not amazing, but I think they're fine.
So, Piers, yes or no?
Probably no. But I think the card is fine. I probably wouldn't play it.
I agree with you, but I've seen a lot of people playing it.
A lot of times you just want a Pokemon and an energy. Maybe like 2 Pokemon and an energy. And so then a Pierce is fine. But I think the deck's overall, like I would expect it to be overall better if you just put in like Poke Gear and then just hit your researchers and bosses more consistently. But yeah, I think playing Pierce is fine.
Well,
it's not the bad card.
The issue I've had with the Piers lists is it just still wants some level of hand disruption, right? Because otherwise you can just lose if your opponent has against ADP, you want to keep them on a small hand size to reduce the chance of them just being able to boss 2 Crobats. And if you're playing the Piers version, if you have to be playing Stamp, which isn't always the case, and if so it means that I want to be able to Marnie for the disruption. And if you're playing the Piers version, that just becomes way more difficult to do. So I feel that whilst ADP is such a dominant deck with such easy access to the bench, maybe you shouldn't be playing Piers, or if you are going to play Piers, you have to play at least 2 reset Stamp for the disruption instead.
Not sure. I haven't tried playing Piers too much. Like, I mostly just played the Research Money boss version. Like sometimes, like looking at my hands and like Piers would be nice now. But then there's also hands where a Research or Money is strictly better. So, I don't know. Like, if someone puts in Piers into alternative deck, I think that's fine. But the deck also just is fine without it. I'm not sure what's best, but yeah, I'll play without for now.
Yeah, so since chat is calling us out for calling Eternatus boring and then having a long conversation about Eternatus, we should move on swiftly to the other decks from so Vikavolt gone, right? Vikavolt just disappears because there's no more E-power. So that opens up a few other decks as well that, makes Blounce better in this format. Like Baby Blounce before rotation was technically risky because Vikavolt could just lock you out the game turn 1, basically. So that's where Baby Blounce comes back in. Eternatus is extremely strong. Has won a couple of events over the last couple of days as well, like some of the tournaments.
I think for past weekend, it has won basically everything.
Yeah. But the one that everyone's talking about, and the one that's drawing all the controversy right now, is ADP-Z still. And this has led to the... I don't want to call outcry, because it's it's not that many people, because it's Pokemon Twitter. There's not that many of us in the Pokemon Twitter sphere.
Yeah. I remember like a few days ago when maybe it was yesterday or 3 days ago, I don't remember. But when I went on Twitter, I saw 10 people or something tweeting about it. I was like, wow, did I miss something? What happened?
Yeah. So basically, the long and short of it is, for those who missed it on Twitter or aren't following the 20 different people you need to be following on Twitter to really get a full understanding of how it unfolded, is basically people think that banning ADP would lead to a better format. Which is up for debate in and of itself. And the idea of, but the big thing, and I kind of like the other conversation we could have as opposed to the ADP thing, is fan-run tournaments, which is what we all are right now. There are no official tournaments other than the Players' Cup stuff. Should they be able to impose custom ban lists in that kind of sense of saying, right, for this one tournament, let's ban ADP? And does that make sense as a tournament? Is that something people want to play in? Like, where do you come down on that?
On the ban ADP thing, I don't really have a strong opinion. I think could be fine. I don't think it would change the meta much at all. Just because single prizers, they are gate capped by ADP kind of, but then again they are also just mostly not good. And it's just a bad matchup. I feel like if you play something like I don't know, Lost March and not Lost March, Mad Party. I mean, I feel like you just take the bad matchup against ADP. Maybe sometimes you can win, but yeah, if you're good against the other decks, I think the deck would still be fine even if it loses against ADP. But the thing is, like for single pricer decks, they don't beat other decks. They lose to ADP, but they also lose to against everything else. So, like whatever. And like an exception is like Baby Blown. It's just a really good card. It's a really good single pricer, so it can beat ADP and it can beat other decks. So it's a viable meta deck. And yeah, ADP doesn't change that. And then there's also two pricer decks that get gate kept by ADP, because if you're a two pricer deck, like even if you KO on ADP, you can still just lose, because and just Zacian KOs you twice, and that's already 6 prizes. But if it wasn't the case, I think two prizers would still lose against Zacian decks, because Zacian is just a two prizer as well, but a much better two prizer than everything else. Like for example, you have, I don't know, Sandaconda, you have Milotic V or something. Those are two prizers that can't really beat ADP, but they are also two prizers that are strictly worse two prizers than Zacian. So if ADP didn't exist, why would you play those decks over a Zacian deck? Like Zacian is a basic, you have Metal Patch, you can just like do the same as those decks, like the same amount of damage, but you can just draw extra cards from Intrepid Sword. You don't have to like set up a stage 2 to get your energy. You can just play a Turbo Patch, a Metal Saucer. Like, I don't know, I don't think having ADP gone would really change that much.
I agree. I don't think it actually changes things as much in terms of... I don't think it changes what decks are good. But I think a lot of the issue that people have with ADP is it feels bad, because after the ADPization deck GX tax, they no longer really interact with your game plan outside of, did you play a support Pokemon to your bench? They don't care what you're hitting them in the face with. And I think that's where people's main issue is, right? Is if you're trying to have this Pokemon battle, right? The whole idea of the game is supposed to be this kind of Pokemon battle, and they just go, yeah, but can you just switch out the Pokemon you've got with this other one that I can actually take KO on? Cheers, thanks. It just doesn't feel good to be in those situations, right? And I think that's where the people want the ban is. I think it wouldn't change the decks that are played. It would change how games would pan out with the same decks, right? You could play the Crobats and the Denes, the Dig, and not constantly go, well, I've played one of these two down, I have immediately lost this game.
Yeah, like I'm not like totally against banning ADP. I think it would be fine, just strictly to maybe like change up a bit. Like it's been legal for a while. Like I think it's one of the more interesting decks in this format, but also it has a lot of games that just don't feel interactive, especially if people choose to just like play into that game plan. Yep. Like I said earlier, for example, you can play Centiskorch with a bunch of those Pokemon and just like get gusted twice by ADP, or you could play it with only Volcanion and then make them go through 2 VMAXs, and then at that point Alter Creation becomes literally a blank attack. It just doesn't do anything anymore. Like ADP also like depends on how like people interact with it. Like sure, like a lot of games don't really feel good against ADP, but yeah, like you can ban it. I don't really care that much, but well, so I don't feel it would like make a ton of sense. It's just like whatever for me.
So that's the other question, though, right? Is so Limitless ran some events, and we ran standard format except for one bugged card, right, for the Invitational that we knew was bugged. But we ran, but that was only because it actually genuinely made a huge difference to decks. So, do you think tournaments, like obviously people are free to choose as they wish, do you think there's particular value in these tournaments with custom ban lists?
Yeah, I think that's fine, a fine thing to do, as long as people like want to play it. Like if someone has lost against ADP a bunch and they would like to play a tournament without ADP, and someone offers a tournament without ADP, then why not? That's good. It's not like the standard format right now, like as it is, it's very like relevant anyway. It's just if a lot of people don't enjoy playing it as is, then it makes sense to change it, because like these tournaments, they don't really have, except for the Players Cup, they don't really have like awesome prizes or anything. They are mostly there for players to have fun in them, right? So yeah, I think it, like custom formats, like old formats, maybe, like those things are pretty cool. Yeah, like normally, like generally in standard, I don't think we really need bans. I'm also like kind of confused about the mismatches and Beleva bans, but things that really doesn't matter right now, because that like a real format doesn't really exist.
Well, yeah, which I guess is kind of the point, right? Like if we were in a situation where we could still have IRL standard tournaments that were being held, like normal regionals, I'd probably go, well, what's the point of these alternate formats to an extent? Like, obviously they're fun, but, you know, there's prizes to be won in the other formats. But if you could offer the same pricing, because it's all unofficial anyway, so it doesn't matter. If you could offer the same pricing for your custom event, who cares, right? Like, I think there's some value to it. And also, I think, can lead to interesting conversations, right? Of people go, well, okay, we ran the event without ADP, but some other thing happened that we're equally annoyed about, you know, and it kind of goes, okay, well, maybe keeping ADP out, you know, keeping ADP in is like the lesser of two evils, in some way.
And also, if someone has like a very popular tournament series with like a custom band list, now that there's a band list in standard and expanded, maybe it could also have like some impact on the people at TPCI who decide the band list stuff. So yeah, like if a community like decides to ban something for the tournaments and it turns out like a success, then maybe it could actually change something right now. So it's a good time to do experiments like that, I think. So yeah, even though I don't think ADP ban would it matters too much, I think, yeah, like if someone wants to do tournaments about it, yeah, that's cool.
Okay, so I think that was more or less our conversation list for this week, if I remember. So, is there anything else that you'd like to mention, or any shout outs you'd like to make?
I don't know, like maybe like a mention. Like I think I'm gonna start doing some Limitless tournaments again, like soon-ish. Like probably not like this or next week, but this month. So yeah,
soon TM.
Yeah,
they are soon TM. So yeah, you heard it here first. And I want to make a shout out to the man, the myth, the legend, David Hochman, for a few things. The Twitch extension that he's made to view decks is seriously impressive and seriously cool, because there is no Twitch documentation. It doesn't exist. There is no guide on how to make any of this stuff work. I don't know how he got there. I've looked.
I'm pretty sure there's like some developer docs. Right?
Technically, yes. They don't. They may as well just say "Here be dragons" and leave it at that. There's actually nothing useful.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it actually, so
yeah.
So talk on it.
So really impressive. Everyone should check it out, because it just makes viewing streams as like a new viewer a lot easier. But also, I want to shout him out for getting me involved with his "How many prize cards can we take in a turn" experiment. But it turns out PTCGO just dies if it's more than 24. 24 is apparently the hard limit for PTCGO in terms of prizes.
I think it's impressive that you can have like 40 prizes on PTCGO, and it works, at least like the interface.
So yeah,
you can click on the prizes and it shows you all 40 prizes.
So the video so I have the full video recording, but we just cut a clip from it to show. But it doesn't have my audio on. but the reaction to I'm going to attack, because I have for the entire time I could technically look at my prize cards and see if the UI worked. But I wanted to wait until I attacked. I was like, okay, first of all, does the UI work? Yes, and then it doesn't work when you start taking 24 prize cards. So really, ADP broke it, is what we learned, because it turns out if you altered creation 42 times, that's too many. So now we know. So thank you very much, guys, for listening. We should be back next week, because I'm guessing there's going to be loads more to keep talking about in this format. So we will be back next week, and we will speak to you all soon.